Ecology is the study of the interactions between organisms and their environment. These organisms live in the biosphere. The biosphere consists of all life on Earth, on all parts of the Earth in which life exists, including land, water, and the atmosphere. Now we have the levels of organization, which are species, population, community, ecosystem, and biome. Inside these biomes, there are biotic factors and abiotic factors. A biotic factor is any living part of the environment, and the abiotic factor is any non-living part of the environment. Living systems operate by expending energy. Organisms need energy for growth, reproduction, and their own metabolic processes. In short, if there is no energy, there are no life functions. Organisms that can capture solar or chemical energy to produce food by assembling inorganic compounds into complex organic molecules are called autotrophs. Also, these autotrophs store energy in forms that make it available to other organisms that eat them. That's why autotrophs are also called primary producers. But also we have heterotrophs. Heterotrophs must acquire energy from other organisms by eating them in one way or another. Heterotrophs are also called consumers, and these consumers are divided in carnivores, herbivores, scavengers, omnivores, decomposers, and detritivores. In every ecosystem, primary producers and consumers are linked through feeding relationships. Despite the great variety of feeding relationships in different ecosystems, energy always flows in similar ways. A food chain is a series of steps in which organisms transfer energy by eating and being eaten. In some aquatic food chains, primary producers are a mixture of floating algae, called phytoplankton, and attached algae. But now we have food webs. In most ecosystems, feeding relationships are much more complicated than the relationships described in a single simple chain. So ecologists call this network of feeding interactions a food web. But each step in a food chain or a food web is called a trophic level. One way to illustrate the trophic levels in an ecosystem is with an ecological pyramid. Ecological pyramids show the relative amount of energy or matter contained within each trophic level in a given food chain or food web. But also we have pyramids of biomass and numbers. The total amount of living tissue within a given trophic level is called biomass. A pyramid of biomass illustrates the relative amount of living organic matter available at each trophic level in an ecosystem. And a pyramid of numbers shows the relative number of individual organisms at each trophic level in an ecosystem. Matter moves through the biosphere differently than the way in which energy moves. Solar and chemical energy are captured by primary producers and then pass in a one-way fashion from one trophic level to the next, dissipating in the environment as heat along the way. But while energy in the form of sunlight is constantly entering the biosphere, Earth doesn't receive a significant steady supply of new matter from space. Elements pass from one organism to another and among parts of the biosphere through closed loops called biogeochemical cycles, which are powered by the flow of energy. The chemical substances that an organism needs to sustain life are called nutrients. Every organism needs nutrients to build tissues and carry out life functions. But all organisms require nitrogen to make amino acids, which combine to form proteins. Although nitrogen gas is the most abundant form of nitrogen on Earth, only certain types of bacteria can use this form directly. These bacteria convert nitrogen gas into ammonia, a process known as nitrogen fixation. Other bacteria obtain energy by converting nitrates into nitrogen gas, which is released into the atmosphere in a process called denitrification. If even a single essential nutrient is in short supply, primary productivity will be limited. The nutrient whose supply limits productivity is called the limiting nutrient.